Time to call the meeting to order. Would you please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you for everybody that's in attendance tonight. I hope this goes rather quick and you're not delayed here any longer than any of us have to be. All right, gentlemen, have you had a chance to look at the agenda?
I have.
Yeah.
Any
No revisions.
issues? No revisions? All right, I make a motion that we adopt the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. All right, moving on to the consent agenda here. Excuse me. Yes. Any questions on that? We're
I'm
good?
I'm good.
We're good. Okay, I move that we approve the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Oh,
I'll second.
Motion carried.
no. He's
No.
second. No,
He's second. Oh, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, motion carried. Moving to 3, public hearing. And there's a list. I think we've got 10 houses here this evening. David, how are you? And it looks like the first one up is a public hearing to consider condemnation of 713 East Magnolia Street. And I'll open that up to the public. Is there anyone here that would like to, the owner of that property?
First, David.
Okay. All right. David?
Mayor, this is a property that was on our unsound property list that we've been working on for the last several months. We've sent several letters, and I sent a letter just in the last 10 days asking them to please contact us and discuss it. And I have received no contact from the owner, and nothing has been returned to me. So we're asking to proceed with condemnation of this property. It is wide open. In fact, I was just by there the other day, and it looks like there was a breaker box out in the yard, like somebody had ripped some wiring out of the house and stuff. So,
When you say nothing's been returned, you mean the mail went through?
yeah, sometimes we send out, and it'll come back undeliverable.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And is there anyone here that would like to speak on this property, 713 East Magnolia? Owner's not here. All right, then I will close the public hearing for that. And your recommendation is to
Our recommendation is to proceed with
proceed
condemnation
to
of this
condemnation.
property.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions for David?
None for me.
No.
All right, then I make a motion that we move that 713 East Magnolia Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 2, 816 South 17th Street. David?
Sir, this property, too, was found on our unsound property list. The owners were present at the last meeting and informed the commission that they use this to store items for other rental properties. And he had told me he was going to be present at tonight's meeting. We did discuss that. He called me yesterday, and he would like to demo this property himself and proceed with that way. But if he's here, I don't see him. I told him I was going to proceed with recommendation and condemnation of the property. After that, we could work with him on the demo process. He wants to speak with Lacey and over that and some arrangements he wants to do. But he told me he would try to have it out within 6 months. He would like to do it himself. He wants to take some of the lumber and use for other projects, and he has a place to store that in the county, I believe. So that's kind of what his plan is for the property, to clean it up and do it himself.
Okay, good. That would be good. And he's not here. Anyone has concerns about that property, I'll open it up to the public. 816 South 17. Anyone? All right, I'll close the public hearing. Moving along then, gentlemen, any questions?
So with the procedure, if we condemn it, he's got, 30 days?
Yes,
to-
30 days to proceed or provide us a
Proceed.
timeline. And in that time, I think he's going to visit with April. There's some things that April, Lacey, and I are doing, or excuse me, he's going to visit with Lacey. April, Lacey, and I were doing. He just wants to visit with them about some ideas we have next year in our condemnation process and demo. But those ideas aren't available yet. So, and I told him that. So he just wants to give him 6 months to get it out. He's going to do it himself, is what he told me on the phone.
So we'll just proceed with everything
Yep.
as normal, then
Yeah,
he'll
'cause-
have to be what
Yeah,
he wants.
because I told him when he got
discuss.
his demo permit, when he went to Lacey and David to get that, he would have to. We would set a value of what we believed that for us to go in and clean it up if he refuses to do that. So he will have to set a bond or give us some
Right.
money that we will hold until it's cleaned up.
Right.
And that's what he wanted to visit with David and Lacey about and get all that arranged.
Okay. Yeah. 'Cause any discussion on future condemnation processes, it won't be relevant.
Right,
To his.
yeah.
We're going to go ahead.
Yes, yeah, and he's aware of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Gary, are you good?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, I make a motion that we move that 816 South 17th Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Item number 3, 904 West Main Street. David?
Mayor, this is a property that was actually repoed, and the finance company that had the property went insolvent. And so it's just kind of out there in limbo. And I've been working with Lacey and David on this. And Lacey may want to speak to it, but it's basically just out there. The house is at times open. It is being broken into constantly. About a year and a half ago, there was a gentleman that claimed he had rights to it that started to do some work on it. That's why you see a new service box there. But that gentleman has since disappeared, and Don had told me he hadn't seen him in over 6 or 7 months. It's in poor condition. It's open constantly, and we'd like to proceed with condemnation. I don't know, Lacey, if you have anything you want to add to it. There's really not anybody for us to contact. We have sent letters to who was the holder of it, but they're insolvent, Jeff. So, I mean, it's just kind of out there.
That's a new one.
Yeah, it is.
I've never don't remember ever seeing one where the finance
Right.
company was repossessed it and then,
Yep.
wow, crazy.
I'll open it up to the public. Anyone here that would like to address this property at 904 West Main? Any questions or concerns about it? All right, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Is that, the utilities are cut to that, right?
Yes,
Is
there
that
are no
correct?
utilities to it at all.
Okay.
Just a gentleman, and I do not believe he even had any rights. I think he was just like going to claim it as his own and
Okay.
homestead it kind of.
Wow.
And he showed up and started doing some work, but we haven't seen him in six or so months. Last I spoke to Don, and there has been nobody around the property the times I've been there. It's wide open. I did not enter it, but you'll go by days and the front door standing wide open. You'll go back by a few days later and it's been closed. They'll throw mattresses out on the front lawn and different things. So
I think this one had a mattress on the, when you
yeah,
could
it
see
was
the
hanging out the window, and
window,
there was
yeah,
a bed
yeah.
frame out in the front yard.
Yeah. I guess someone wanted to sleep out in the open.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have any other questions on this. Gentlemen?
The only thing, without contact, we still just contact the owner of record, and we're not liable for any unnotification if we proceed, right?
Really two ways of contacting. One is by the certified letters, the other is by the publication, the resolution in the newspaper. So it's kind of a redundancy that's built in to protect the owners.
But we're covered there.
Yes.
Okay.
So our recommendation is proceed with condemnation.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David. Gentlemen, I move that we that 904 West Main Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe, and that is the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 4, 112 West Chestnut Street.
Mayor, this property belongs to Jim Sheldon and his wife, and Mrs. Sheldon has been in contact with me. She is basically handling the affairs for the family now, and I just received a call this afternoon from Cindy White. She has signed the house over for condemnation, which kind of helps us where we don't have to go through all of the process, correct, Lacey? So it's that form we have, Jeff, where they just sign it. So I don't know exactly, do we need to proceed with the condemnation process at this point since she signed it over?
You said Cindy signed it over.
Well,
mean
she
contacted you on behalf of the Sheldons.
Yes. Miss Sheldon signed the paperwork, and it's been notarized and left it with Cindy to give to us for the property.
We're wanting to charge a lien back on the property to try and collect it. We need to go through the condemnation as a formality,
Yeah.
because that's the only way we can legally put the lien on it.
And she is aware of our costs because I had a long, probably about 30-minute discussion with her of the process and how it works. And this would just speed up the process of how we can move forward.
Okay.
Correct.
I'll open it up to the public. Anyone here that has concerns about 112 West Chestnut Street? All right, I'll close that to the public. I do have one question. Refresh my memory. Did she or Mrs. Shelton indicate that they were looking at taking down the property themselves?
She initially was. She contacted me, and I
Okay.
sent her the list of all the contractors we use.
Okay.
And I do not know what she done with that, but I also sent her a letter 10 days ago. In that letter, we put this paperwork that allows the owners to just go ahead and release the house, and they can get it notarized, and we can just proceed. Helps the process move very quickly then for us once we have that. And Cindy White left me a message about 2 o'clock this afternoon saying, hey, Miss Sheldon signed the paperwork and it's been notarized and you can come pick it up, David. And I just haven't made it there to pick it up.
So we can
So-
move on this one very quickly.
Yes, that part is done. As far as we could remove it once we did our part of asbestos and those type of things.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, David. Any other questions? Oh,
No.
All right. I make a motion that we move that 112 West Chestnut Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 5, 305 South 18th Street. David.
This gentleman lives in Longton, Kansas, and he does not have the means to take care of the house or to do anything. The house is open. The contents of the house are in the backyard. It's in very poor shape, and he is aware that we are proceeding with condemnation and that we are going to remove the house, and he is fine with that.
I will open this up to the public. Anyone here have concerns with 305 South 18th that would like to speak? All right, I'll close that to the public. Gentlemen,
I don't have any questions.
All right.
good? All right. I make a motion that we move that 305 South 18th Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Item number 6, 305 South Burn Street.
Mayor, this is a house that is, again, wide open, especially on the backside. The north side windows are broken out. It has been pretty much trashed inside. This came to our attention about 6 months ago from the neighbors that were complaining of constant homeless people and drug activity and other things happening in this house. I mean, it has been totally destroyed on the inside. We have never received any response back from the owner, and the letter I sent 10 days ago was returned undeliverable.
Okay. I'll open it up to the public. Anyone here that would like to speak concerning 305 South Burns? All right, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. I've been by this property numerous times. I think this property's been like this for as long as I can remember, and that's probably too long. And it's been an eyesore forever, and I'm sure the neighborhood would love to see this go quickly. So, gentlemen, we're good?
Well, if we can't contact the owner and there's no progress, then
Yeah.
proceed.
All right. Then I make a motion, I move that 305 South Burn Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Item number 7, 317 South 14th Street.
This house has been on our radar for a while. Neighbors have complained. It's also on the unsound list of Montgomery County. We've tried to make contact with the owner in Coffeyville. I've had no response from him. As you can see, the windows are missing on the side, the front, the attic. The structure is secure otherwise as far as the doors, but there's animals inside and out. And my understanding is it's pretty bad on the inside.
Okay, I don't have any questions on this. I don't think there's hardly a window lift, and there is there.
No,
I see
especially on the upper
I see 2
story.
glasses,
Yeah.
2 window panes, and everything else looks open. Okay. Gentlemen,
No question.
good? All right, I move that 317 South 14th be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Number 8, 325 North 19th.
This property, make sure when Kelly. Yeah, this property belongs to our gentleman from Lawrence, Morningstar. He has informed us that he's fine with the condemnation process moving forward on that. He informed Don of that. He has been notified by letters. He sent a letter 10 days ago of tonight's meeting. The house is open. Doors are open, and the gentleman informed he wants to save some houses he has on Myrtle Street, so he was not concerned about this one.
Might he sign that form to let
He
us?
has not signed the form.
But might he do it if we ask?
He might. I haven't seen him I seen him about 3 weeks ago in town mowing some yards, but I have not had any contact with him in the last month.
I'll open that up to the public. Anyone that would like to speak concerning this address, 325 North 19th. All right, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. He was, he's the one gentleman that bought numerous properties
Yeah, he
sight
bought
unseen throughout the
hundreds
community.
of properties in the
Same
county.
gentleman from Lawrence, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Hundreds, literally?
Yes.
He
Wow.
bought like, I don't know, I think in the county he bought like 80 or 90 properties.
And he bought properties in Coffeyville and in
Yeah.
Independence.
And he's been here before to speak
Yeah.
to us. Okay. Yeah, you're looking at, that's what we're looking at.
And if he says he approves condemnation,
Yep.
it's a
Yep.
done deal.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And I'll get a hold of him, see if he'll sign it.
All right. Any further questions, gentlemen?
No.
All right. I make a motion that we move that 325 North 19th Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 9, 409 South 6th Street.
Mayor, this house was brought to our attention, and we were told that it was potentially unsafe and dangerous. So I got with the city attorney, and we executed a search warrant on this property this last week with the help of the police department. And I literally almost lost an officer that almost went through the floor into the basement of this structure. It is dangerous, and it is unsafe, and it is a structure I think we need to bring down as soon as possible. And I did seek from our 4 demo contractors a cost to do that. So far, G&G is the only one that responded. 2 of them said they were just way too busy, didn't have time. JRB said he would look at it, but he didn't know if he had time to deal with it either. So in that quote I have from G&G is $10,000. Wasn't that what it was, Lacey? Right at about $10,000. But that removes the structure. This thing is totally ingrown with trees. That's clearing the lot to where it's an open lot. The trees are down. We clear it. That's $10,000. If we left that big tree, there may be some savings there. But I asked Gorby to give me a bid to clear the lot. So that's where we're at. I would recommend that the commission allow us to condemn it, and we move to get this structure down and safe as quickly as possible.
I'll open it up to the public. Anyone that would like to speak concerning 409 South 6th Street? No one? All right, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. Is the house secured, or is there a way people are getting in and out of this?
They are getting in through the back. There's several different ways that they are getting in, and we've been unable to secure it at this point. Once we condemn it, we will go down there with the street department and secure it to the best we can at that point. Okay. We have tried to contact the owner. I've been told he's living out in the Card Creek area, but we have been unable to make any contact, and all mail comes back undeliverable.
Okay.
With a house in this condition, and it's basically unsafe to enter, what about asbestos abatement? Does that still have to be?
What we can do, and I will contact the state of Kansas, but we utilize the fire department and do it with water and spray it down.
As they're doing demolition?
As they're doing demolition, and they will allow us to bring it down.
Okay.
Because it sounds like that to go in and try and take samples and then a contractor to abate, it's too unstable.
Yes, I was standing outside while Jerry's officers did the search, and to watch the animals come out of it was amazing as those officers were trying to make their way through that structure. So it's full of critters and birds, and I mean, they were just crawling out the sides. 4 squirrels came out of the roof. I mean, it was amazing to watch.
All right. Any other questions, gentlemen?
No.
All right. Then I make a motion that we move that 409 South 6th Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Item number 10.
Mayor,
Yes.
you might want to make another motion if you want to award that bid to G&G to do an immediate removal.
Yeah. 'Cause we really need 2 motions, one to condemn it and
Yeah.
one to proceed with removal.
Yes, emergency removal.
Yeah.
So then Mike,
10,800.
10,800 is Gorby's bid to remove it. That's the only one we received, and we requested from the 4 contractors we use.
okay. So, and the other contractor you had mentioned probably is not going to.
I will check
Come
back
on
with
board.
JRB. I mean, he told me, he said, I'll go by and look, David. He said, I don't know if I have time to mess with it. And I think the other one of them's Moeller. Moeller's busy getting ready to do some other work. Can't remember who the 4th one is.
But now that we've given them out
Billman's.
the other quote, it wouldn't be fair
No.
Right.
to do that.
Okay. Well, let's, we make a motion that we move to condemn the house.
We did, yeah, you
And
got
we-
that
and we've
one.
got that.
To
We voted on that.
Accept the quote from G&G to remove it.
Okay. And the next motion would be to accept a quote from G&G in the amount that was $10,800 to the point, to the T, okay?
The basis needs to be it's an immediate hazard to public safety.
Because it is an immediate hazard to public safety. So we will proceed with awarding that to G&G in the amount of $10,800, which was their bid. And that's the motion, so do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. 613 West Chestnut Street, item number 10, okay?
Mayor, this was involved in a structure fire a couple months ago, and it was a rental. The front bedroom right there on the upper left, that room was totally gutted. It has smoke and heat damage throughout the structure. Lacey, Dave, and I have diligently tried to track the owner of this structure down for the last week. The police department even provided me a number they had. That number belongs to a totally new person that had no idea why I was calling him. We've tried everything to track this lady down and have been unsuccessful. The mail comes back undeliverable. I've sent letters to different addresses where we think she may be at. We just cannot track the owner. I went by there this afternoon. The renter did take all the contents are gone, but there's been no progress or any work. It looks like it's just been abandoned. Front door is closed, but the window's wide open, and there's been no work done to the inside of the structure that I can see. So we're asking to proceed with condemnation. We'll continue over the next 30 days to see if we can track this lady down and do everything we can before we end up demoing it.
All right, David, thank you. I'll open this up to the public. Anyone that would like to have concerns about 613 West Chestnut Street? All right, then I'll close that portion of the public hearing. These are old pictures. That there's not a car sitting in the driveway.
Right, these
anymore
are
at this
old
address.
pictures. I went by there today. The porch is complete. The renter completely cleaned up. There is on the side of the house where some lumber and some small debris. It looks as he was cleaning it, but the porch is clean. The front door is shut, but that window is wide open, and you could look right into the structure. And it's pretty much cleaned out. It's just they've done no work. Nothing's being done with it. Looks like it's just abandoned.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Any other questions concerning this?
No, it seems pretty cut and dried.
Yeah. Too bad. All right, I make a motion that we move that 613 West Chestnut Street be condemned as dangerous and unsafe. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Item 4, items for commission action. Item A, consider a request from Jim Hayward to donate and install a large art piece at Memorial Hall celebrating the city's upcoming 150th birthday. Jim, how are you this evening? Good to see you.
Good, thanks. As some of you may or may not know, each year that we have the Astra Arts Festival, which are the even years every other year, Jim Hayward Fine Art does a project during that time. The first year that we were here and during the Astra Festival, we hosted 4 wine and paint parties. The second year the second Astra we were here for, we did a large piece which we donated to the library, and it stands there now. Astra is coming up in 2020, and it also happens to be the 150th anniversary of independence. So we thought, wow, what a great tie-in. Let's do a piece that kind of brags about our town and its 150 years. So what you see here is the entire piece, and it consists of 13 panels, 6 on each side of a center panel, The center panel reads 150 years, and each of the other panels contain a letter which spells out the word independence. If you'll go to the next slide, Kelly. This is kind of a little closer view of the first half of the piece. There's the second half of the piece. And there is the centerpiece. And what I've done is, this is a well-constructed piece. It includes painting and my trademark assemblage work that I do using found objects and attaching them. The next slides, we'll go through these one at a time, and I'll explain. This one is the I in Independence. It represents the William Inge Theater Festival. The second one represents Niwala, and that is a 1983 Niwala belt buckle on that belt section up there. The third one represents the farming industry. So we've got wheat, a cow, an old hay hook. The fourth one represents our lakes and our recreational facilities in the area. This one, of course, is the Indy Pirates. This one is a little piece of history here with the Interurban Railway. It contains some actual pieces of track and an old electrical light pole. The next one is music and the Mid-Continent Band. And, of course, we have the USD 446 with our Bulldogs. Night baseball and Mickey Mantle. Yeah, we have a bat there that has a Mickey Mantle autograph and a little moon on the baseball to show that it's night baseball, and Mickey's famous number 7. This one is Miss Abel, the park, and the zoo. And Little House on the Prairie. And the last one is the E in Independence is the oil and gas industry. So we have an actual gas pump nozzle on there and an oil well. The piece measures a little over 25 feet in width, all put together. They're all individual pieces that are hung, but the full length of it's a little over 25 feet. It's about 4 feet at the max in height, and my proposal is to put it here in the building, and thanks to Kelly, I was looking at walls in the big hall, and Kelly informed me that that's used a lot for wedding receptions and other events, and maybe it would be not such a great place to put it. And she suggested right over here, the wall, when you're coming downstairs from Memorial Hall, the stairway comes down where the bathrooms are there. Well, there's that big, approximately 35-foot wall across there with absolutely nothing on it. And as soon as I saw it, I said, yeah, that's perfect. So that's what I'm asking for. The piece itself, it will also include stanchion poles and velvet ropes to kind of that will come out from the wall about 2 feet. And I checked, and there's lots of clearance there. I mean, I don't think that would be a problem and that would also, discourage folks from going up and messing with things on the piece. Like I said, it's very well constructed. It's finished beautifully, and it is my wish to donate this piece to the City of Independence to be permanently installed here at Memorial Hall. I would like the dedication to, I mentioned earlier the Astra Arts Festival, and since it happens next year, and coincides with our 150th anniversary. I would like to see the piece dedicated. We would hang it in late June and dedicate it sometime in early July during the Astor Arts Festival. That's my proposal, my wish. Thank you.
Jim, thank you very much. That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's just beautiful. I like the work that you do, and that's pretty impressive. How you put that together using just common items that you find that you run across from time to time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication on your part. And speaking from the gentleman up here, we're very grateful.
All right.
Grateful that you stepped forward and you were willing to do this and donate it to where it could be on display to help celebrate the city's 150th birthday. I like it. I'm impressed, but I'm always impressed by what you do.
Thank you.
So
Thanks. Any other questions or concerns?
No, I think it's going to look great. With that area, it'll really enhance coming down the stairs or coming from the Civic Center up to the auditorium level.
Right.
It'd be a great location.
Well, I noticed that you do see it well coming down the stairs, and also from when you enter the hallway here, right here.
Right.
You will be able to see at least a part of it. And so, yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Perfect wall.
Well, thank
There was
you.
an art piece there previously, as you may recall, some flags and things. Remember that? Years ago, there was an art piece there, many years.
So why not put it up now? Why wait till June, buddy?
Well, because it's our Astra project.
Oh, whatever. I say get it up by Christmas.
Well, it's up to you all.
Looks great. I love it.
All right. Thank you.
thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for the generous donation, Jim. Well, this will be an easy one. I make a motion that we move to accept the donation from Jim Hayward to install a large art piece at Memorial Hall celebrating the city's upcoming 150th birthday. And do I want to include about setting it? Is that necessary? Setting it in late June and having a dedication during that doesn't necessarily need to be a
think
part
so.
of this.
I mean, if they have permission to put it in, it should be fine. 'cause
Whenever. Okay.
You might want to be flexible.
Okay. Well, that was the motion that I've made then. So do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Item B, consider adopting an ordinance amending the NEC, the National Electric Code as previously adopted.
Mayor,
Okay, David.
you'll probably be very familiar with this. For the last 4 to 5 months, the electrical board has been dealing with a situation with some changes with Evergy, the new meters and everything, and disconnects. The way our code is, and we're not for sure if we just missed it when we adopted the new NEC and it got left there, but it creates a safety issue. Because, and it gets a little complicated, and I'm not an electrician, but you'll probably understand this. When you're putting in a disconnect and not upgrading it to a 4-wire, but stay with a 3-wire, you're not really disconnecting electricity from the house, and there's still a possibility that somebody could get injured. So the 2011 NEC that we adopted requires disconnects on structures and commercial properties, and this is a way that not only for the safety of the house, for firefighters, EMS, but it's also meeting the standards that Evergy is asking us to meet for the safety of the community. And it's been not difficult for the board, but the reason they put into this a 45-day period that the building inspector can grant a waiver to work through these process is there is an expense to adding a disconnect to new service. New service isn't necessarily cheap, and we are dealing with an older housing structures. They have older breaker boxes. Some of them are not even UL certified. There's no way they could even go in there and put a 4-wire in there. There's no room to break the neutral and the negative bar in there. And so there's expense. So the electrical board wants to work with the community as far as, we're able to grant some grace periods here as we work with, gives the electricians a little to work with the citizen or the homeowner or the commercial property that's trying to make these upgrades and changes as these happen. And as you know, some of these structures, they go along fine, and just one day the electrical panel or the service just burns out, and there they are. They're stuck without no power. And, some of our older widow ladies or just citizens that don't have $1,500 sitting around, that's just for service. And there might be another $1,000 for a disconnect to be put on there with it. So, but the electrical board feels we have to make the change and put this in because it's caused some issues where the building inspector and Westar all get out on. We're working with an electrician. He said, well, the code says I can do 3-wire, but NEC says 4-wire, so we just want to clean that up so that we're all on firm ground and we're going forward the right way. Now, we may come back with a few more changes as this goes, and we're working with people as we go forward. But for now, we just want to get everything back on the even 2011 NEC standards and work forward from here. And it has the full support of the electrical board and Evergy, who's a part of the electrical board. Like I said, this has been a discussion for the last 4 months, and we just feel it's important now to get this done as we move forward.
So the 4-wire, the 3-wire is just 2 conductors and a neutral. The 4-wire will be 2 conductors, neutral, and a ground wire.
You separate that out and you unbond it inside to where when that disconnect is thrown outside, there is no power in the structure. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we allow them to stay with the 3-wire, we cannot guarantee that neutral wire isn't carrying a current. And that gets above my head.
Right.
Mayor, you might be able to explain that better, but there's still a chance that house is powered. Yes. Without going to a 4-wire system and breaking those neutral and grounds.
Yeah, but even though that is neutral and it is a current carrying conductor, even though it is neutral, so you always run that possibility that there's amperage on that. So
but this will only be applicable if you're upgrading the service entrance.
Right.
It's not. It's not
if you're just,
like. We're not saying that everyone has to go in.
No, we are not.
And redo. This will only be
for new service, new construction, or new service.
Yeah, where they're putting in a new weatherhead and meter box.
Right, exactly.
The disconnect
if you're just getting
and the
power
4-wire
turned
goes
on, you're not affected until either you lose your service, it burns up, or a breaker box or something triggers new service being installed at your residence. But it's also any new construction, commercial or residential, that'll be a part of it, that's understandable. You're going to do something new, or it's commercial. We want these disconnects. And Evergy's really pushing this for us. And, back in the days, we had a bad fire, we just go pull the meter off the house. And they do not want us touching that. And plus, there's the risk, and Mayor, you did this, even if we pull that off there, those can melt together and still energize the house. We've had a firefighter injured from this type of a situation. It is not a fun experience to go through, and we just want to make sure the safety, not only of our firefighters, but the citizens and people going forward for this new service. So,
no, when Westar went to, or Evergy, when they went to, there was a time when they were allowing fire personnel to pull meters.
Yeah.
But anymore, you have to have all your fire protective clothing on, and of course you've got to have rubber gloves for anything over 50 volts.
Yeah.
And even the simple process of pulling a meter, it can flash on you.
Yes.
Even with all that protection on you. So it's there to give you a level of safety by having all this equipment on. So that's why. Yeah. And then there's some liability too if someone would get hurt pulling that.
Yeah.
and then they wouldn't have the right equipment, they wouldn't have rubber gloves and all that was necessary to be able to do that. So I can understand why they're moving in this direction. And then the disconnect gives you a chance to kill everything in the house, so you know one throw kills everything. And then I think the only thing that I saw that was changed when I read through that was that they're allowing up to 20 feet from where the entrance point is, for the metering entrance point is a maximum of 20 feet that you can go in before you have to hit a main
Right.
break or a main disconnect.
Yes. And those are some things I think Evergy's is going to work on us, and those may be some things that come back later where they tweak some of that as we get forward, as Evergy sets their policies and stuff. And I know they're talking about some of those things, but I know I get calls from Joanne each day, and I'm just kind of learning these as, you know, hey, we got new service here, but the breaker box is up in the second floor. I mean, and all these things that we have to do. So those are some tweaks that are going to come back probably after the first year would be my guess. But they felt this was the first step. Let's get everything on an even plane, and then we can start working through some of these other issues as we go forward.
There's a reason why we continually update codes to protect the public and to protect property. Before I retired from Westar in the late 80s, early 90s, we did a meter modernization. We went through and we were removing all the old Joule type meters, and they were all going to magnetic suspension type metering. And I remember, I think it was on West Myrtle, somewhere in the vicinity of where the Booth Theater is. There was a meter upstairs in a bathroom in the corner by the bathtub.
Yep. I mean, it's...
That would probably be the last place you would want to have an
Yes.
electric meter at.
Yeah.
But it was.
Yep.
And of course, we promptly removed it.
Yep.
And of course, it didn't go back in the bathroom.
We still have knob and
So-
tube wiring
Oh, yeah.
in some of our structures.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yep. So,
Yeah. So, anyway, of all places, I guess they figured that was the. Anyway, that's where they put it. Gentlemen, any other questions?
No.
We're good? All right. I make a motion that we move to amend ordinance number 4313, section 1, city code section 18-122B as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Item C, consider a recommendation from the Planning Commission to adopt an ordinance amending Appendix B zoning of the city code relating to indoor firing ranges.
Mayor, this was initiated by the gun club that came to the commission, asked you guys to initiate a text amendment, which you did. It went to the planning commission, and this is their motion that they made at that meeting. It was a 6-1 vote in favor of this motion on their October 1st meeting. And basically it amends the conditional and permitted use table to allow this use as a conditional use in the C3, so they'd still have to go through that conditional use process. And then also added the definition to define an indoor firing range.
All right, Kelly.
And I believe there's someone here representing the applicant, and then I think you also have some other people, but I didn't know if you wanted the applicant to.
Yes, is the applicant here? And yes. Would you like to come forward, sir? And please state your name again. I was here the other day when you gave a
Mark
presentation. Mark, how are you?
I'm president of the gun club.
Okay.
Glad to answer any questions.
Okay.
What do you envision for the complete facility? Just a indoor firing range, or do you have,
Our vision is an indoor firing range, a training room, and a retail outlet. We'd like to do hunter safety courses, also have a retail outlet of some sort that might complement the sport, and of course the indoor range.
Would you expect the retail outlet to be owned by the gun club also?
Yes.
And I understand there's a requirement that you buy your ammunition there when you're shooting in an indoor range?
That is not a requirement yet, but I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
And the reason that is, we don't want people coming in the streets with loaded weapons or weapons on their person. We want them to buy our pre-certified ammunition that's been checked out to shoot in our range. So they buy it, they shoot it in there, and they leave it there.
Gotcha.
So if they buy 100 rounds, they shoot 100 rounds. If they buy 100 rounds and shoot 98 rounds, the 2 rounds stay, and they do not go home with them. Because we don't want to, I don't want to have the wrong personnel in there inspecting ammunition and make a mistake. So I think it's better to buy there and shoot there, pre-certified ammunition.
Okay.
I've been in these before. I know that there are a lot of requirements for, especially like the ventilation, the collection, concerns with lead in the air and all that.
Ventilation's a big deal.
Yeah, it sure is.
We've talked to several turnkey contractors. That's all they do is build these type of facilities. And when it gets to the point, we'll hire one to do an on-site survey, give us a engineered drawing to meet all the local and federal codes that we're going to need to meet, and we'll go forward from there.
Expecting just in the downstairs, I'm assuming?
Yeah. It's a 3-level building, but we're
Right.
going to be in the bottom level and it's a big mezzanine, really.
Yeah.
That as well. That's also ours. And the small basement.
How many lines of firing will you have?
That's a good question. There's actually room for several lines, but until we get the experts in there, I would say probably maybe 10 at the most.
And of course, owning the building next door, I know noise is a concern.
Definitely.
I'm assuming there are ways to handle that.
There are. And there's actually a noise chart, which I have one with me. We'll have to follow those guidelines. I really feel like the majority of the activity will be evenings and weekends, but you can't rely on that.
Sure.
So there'll be, like you said, ventilation's a big issue, noise,
Right.
and safety. We'll have to comply with all that.
I was trying to read everything I could online about risks, dangers, that kind of thing. I didn't see anything that was particularly frightening. Most of the risks I read about were concerns about the lead, which surprised me, not somebody accidentally getting shot by somebody in the next lane. Apparently that's designed well enough that just can't happen.
That's a big part of the cost is the ventilation. It really is.
And the safety of each line is protected, so one person can't accidentally discharge a firearm
That's correct.
at somebody right next to
There's a
them.
wall between each one.
Yeah.
There's different ways to engineer it, but the ones I've been at have got a wall,
Right.
pretty deep wall actually, in case
Yeah,
you have the
6
instructor
foot.
up here with you
Yeah.
helping you.
Right.
I sat through that planning and zoning meeting, one of the ones that I attended, and you had, there was some concern about having this type of facility in our downtown area. And part of the plus was the fact that you'll be doing retail out of this facility. And when I thought back of years past, there were, we had, was it Sportsland? We had like Otasco. We had other businesses in the past that sold ammunition and sold weapons. So this is not something that's new to downtown Independence. It's just a lot of those retailers have either gone out of business or closed, and they're no longer a part of what used to be downtown in a lot of communities throughout Kansas as well as other states. So it's nothing new to Independence. It's just we haven't had it here on site for a good number of years.
And we've been contacted by people that are interested, wondering what are we going to do with this retail outlet? Well, we don't know yet. We're trying to get to that point, but we have people that are interested in putting some products in there for sale.
Mr. Mayor, when you say nothing new, you're talking about just the retail. I mean, we've never had an indoor shooting range downtown.
No. But I mean, as far as I think their concern was when I sat through the meeting was that the fact that there was going to be ammunition and people
Right.
bringing in guns and
Sure.
and the fact that in previous years, going back a ways, you could go in and you could buy ammunition and
Right.
you could buy a rifle or buy a gun and take it out of the store. But as far as the firing range, yeah, this is new to us. But I think the concern that some of the public indicated was the fact that we would be carrying weapons in and out of downtown.
Right.
And the fact that you buy your ammunition there and you shoot what you buy. So you're coming in without an unloaded gun, you're leaving with an unloaded gun.
That's
so
correct.
You have that protection there. So
We want to complement downtown. We want this to be a complement for everybody.
you know,
I especially like the idea of our police force and our sheriff's department being able to be at the
We-
top of their skills.
Definitely.
With
We'd like
opportunity.
for them to be a big part of it and do some training, and I think they're on board with that too. So
okay.
City gets a special deal if this passes, right?
I think so.
What's the distance that you'll shoot? 50 feet, 50 yards?
50 feet would be a good shot.
It's about
We're
100.
going to spend some money up there. I mean, it's going to be a costly
Yeah.
project.
No kidding. The building's like 100 feet deep, though, isn't it?
Yeah, there's plenty of room
Yeah.
for several things.
Right.
That's why we'd like to get the professionals in there, but we don't want to. It's going to cost a few $1,000s to bring them in.
Right.
We don't want to jump the gun until we're ready to go with that. So there could be multiple shooting lanes and multiple levels. Just have to decide how much money we want to spend and what's the best fit for the building.
Right. All right. Mark, thank you. I have Ken Brown that would like to come up and speak about the indoor firing range. Ken, how are you this evening?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? Okay.
And I can tell I'm far outnumbered here, and do not take this personally, but I would just like to voice my opposition to have an indoor firing range in the heart of our downtown business district. I do not object to firing ranges or people owning guns, but when I envision our downtown, I see somebody dropping off a deposit at the bank, a mother with a kid in a stroller, two little ladies going for lunch or having a cup of coffee. And I just do not envision somebody walking down Penn Avenue with a rifle. And I'm going to guess most of the people who walk up and down Penn Avenue do not expect to see a person with a rifle either. And the other thing I read in the text amendment supporting this change is that there's been a decline of retail stores in the downtown. And I think that you need to think in the long term. Who would have guessed 25 years ago that Calvert's would become a bike shop? And who would have guessed 10 years ago that the bike shop would become Dickey's Barbecue? So I'm not at all opposed to firing ranges or guns, but I just think there is a better place for it to be located than in the heart of the downtown.
Thank you, Ken.
All right. Thank you, Ken.
I'd be glad to talk. I'd be glad to answer his concerns if you like.
Gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on up.
There's a big difference between a rifle shooting range and a handgun shooting range. I want to make that clear. I'm not sure we're going to do rifles. That's a different category. We'd like to do that outside, but this will primarily be a handgun shooting range with lower velocity, lower speed shells. Just want to clarify that.
Will you do, like the NRA has a 22 caliber small bore rifle qualification. So are you going to have 22 rifles?
I think 22 rifle is probably doable. I don't know at this point whether that will be, but definitely handguns.
So you're going to have some limits and publish that what will be allowed to bring in and not.
Definitely so.
And then a question with Kansas having the concealed carry and open carry, how does that affect coming into the range? If you're going to shoot a weapon, it's to be unloaded when you bring it in and when you exit. Does that apply to concealed carry, that there's no concealed carry or open carry coming in also?
That's a very good question, and no one's asked me that yet, but We'll have to address that because you don't have to be concealed in Kansas. It's
Right.
open. It'll have to be ammunition that's pre-certified to shoot in our. Probably have to empty their gun before they come in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Kelly, there was something that you had sent, that you had, a revision that you had sent on this.
Oh, just that, on the recommendation, I had put the recommendation from another memo, so it was just to accept the planning commission's recommendation.
Okay, so that's,
So that was the only change. Gary caught it for me.
okay. So that's what we're going to make the,
Yeah, there's, the
motion
motion
on
that's
for that.
on, in your packet
Addresses
has
that.
not been modified. It was just the summary recommendation that I corrected.
okay, so this motion that's listed here.
correct.
It's correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. All right, no further questions, gentlemen?
I don't have any further questions.
I don't have any questions. I do, of course, have some concerns. Ken Brown is my hero, and I also don't like the idea of people walking around any more with guns than they already do. But everything I've read has led me to believe these are very, very safe, and they don't lead to further problems. And well, I mean, my first thought was, what if there's a ricochet that, like Ken said, goes out in the street and hits a mom with a stroller or something? But it looks to me like they've designed these to be incredibly safe. And so even though I'll have a retail store right next door to it, I love the idea of getting more people downtown. You know, retail has taken such a hit because of the internet. It's very, very hard to fill a downtown, all the downtown structures with retail anymore. So I don't know. I guess I think it's worth a try. I like what these gentlemen are doing and these folks are doing, and I appreciate the donation of that building to this group. And it seems to me like it's worth a shot. If they can pull it off, from what I saw online, it's going to be phenomenally expensive to do it. So,
Well, I like the fact that you're going through and meeting all the regulatory processes that you have to meet in order to proceed with this project. So you're going to take every safety matter that's available that you need to meet in order to go forward with this. So, and that building's been vacant. I don't know how many years. I don't know when J.C. Penney left the downtown area, but it's been a good number of years. So, all right. Well, I'm going to make a motion that we move to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopt an ordinance amending Appendix B, zoning of the City Code related to indoor firing ranges. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, item 5, discussion. We are going to consider discussing, a proposed soccer complex with the Independence Recreation Commission.
Mayor, I was contacted by the Rec Commission, and I believe we discussed this previously. They're wanting to put soccer fields in this area that was originally designed for the Central Park with some additional ball fields. And this is the layout that they had proposed. And then if you because it's kind of hard to imagine with the two, so I kind of did an overlay of the other, the original plan showing where these soccer fields will be, which will be in the area of some of the amenities that were put in there previously. The park plan was part of a plan that was finalized in 2007. It was a cooperation between the Recreation Commission and the Park Board, and there were several sessions, and it covered areas all over the city. At that time, the soccer fields were over on Peter Pan Road, so at that time they weren't looking at putting soccer fields there. I've visited with Brent, and what staff's recommendation would be to go back and modify this section of the plan because it included the ADA walks and parking and all that, and have a planner look at it and possibly do an RFP to get proposals for that so that we can have it as, it'll fit in. We're just not modifying the plan we have, but we have a professional, because we went through a plan, had a professional plan done, and have it modified to make sure we're considering all the things that need to be considered to modify it. That's our recommendation. And I know Brenna's here to visit with you about this too.
Kelly, can you go back to the previous slide that
Yes.
shows where that's okay? And this is basically between the skate park, and that's just basically
Yes.
unused
It's between
property now, wooded property.
Yeah, I mean, the skate park is there and it is utilized, but yeah, that other area would need to be, cleaned out and all of that to modify it. And we don't have an issue with having the soccer fields there. We just think we need to have a plan to make sure we're meeting all of our ADA and everything else that we need to meet.
Okay. Brett.
Well, as Kelly mentioned, we came to you, I believe, in March, and kind of threw out this idea once again, although I want to give credit to Nick for getting those soccer fields in there the way we wanted. There's basically 9.3 acres there. Just to reiterate where we're at, I don't know what you guys really remember, what you haven't. I'm basically here just to say we're still very interested in doing it. I know what Kelly and I have spoke a couple times. She's talking about the plan back in 2007, which is obviously 12 years ago. And we would like to move forward with a soccer complex there. We would keep our existing down on Park Street. We already have the softball fields just right across. And I won't pretend we know exactly what we're doing. We're just asking for permission to, try to move forward and develop that area. There's 9.3 acres, we believe, in there, give or take. Probably the first thing we need to do is get it actually surveyed. But that's just kind of our dream, is just have a centrally located overall sports complex. Yes, it's all flood zone, but most recreational places are.
Right.
But we love where we're at down there on Park Street. We'll continue to make improvements on the baseball, softball side, which one of the bigger improvements we need to make is parking, not to mention some ADA, requirements. But this is just kind of our overall plan. And there again, we have not paid to have nice drawings made up of it. But I think that kind of shows you what we're looking at, somewhere around 6 fields, a bathroom, a concession stand, and then we would add some additional parking. But it would just centrally locate it. We have moved away from, we are no longer out at Peter Pan. The school has taken over that facility, and I believe they have plans for it in the future, but I won't speak on what they're doing. But we moved away from it with concerns about the location. As I mentioned before, I know kids don't ride their bikes to stuff as much as they used to, but that's always been our complaint out there. It's too far out. It's just out in the middle of no man's land. The wind's always blowing. It's always 10 degrees colder or hotter out there, it seems like, and we're just kind of out in the middle. So we looked into making basically ADA requirements out there once we got, for lack of a better word, dinged out there for not being up to code. And we looked at the amount of money we were going to have to put in there, and we still didn't feel like we were going to be in a good place. So we currently play soccer. We have for 2 seasons now. We do a fall and spring season. We play down there on Park Street, just right across, and we do them inside of our ball fields. That's very doable we feel for the time allotted to get this done, which there again, we don't plan on this being an overnight project by any means. But it's just something we'd like to look forward to and move forward to, and that's why I'm back today. Like I said, I know you guys are very busy, you have a lot of things on your plate, but we came to you in March, and we would just like basically permission to move forward in some sense. If it's a no, we understand that as well, but if that's the case, then we need to probably start looking elsewhere and start thinking what we're going to do going forward for our soccer complex. But if it's a yes, we would love the chance to develop the area, get it surveyed, start looking into removal and doing that stuff. I know this concern is probably, what are we going to ask for you guys on the backside? Really not much. I mean, obviously we'd like water and sewer hookup eventually. Right. And, I think we'd mentioned in the past maybe even on the concrete work or something, if we could get that maybe worked into some, when you guys are getting your bids for doing other projects or something, if you guys would be willing to help us with that. Besides that, just maybe, I guess, once again, just permission to try to move forward on this. The City Rec Board is very interested in this, and like I said, this is our vision and this is our plan down there, and that's what we would like to do moving forward.
And this is something that you will maintain, because you maintain the
Correct.
ball fields now?
Yes.
With the
Yeah.
city doesn't have no part
By
of that.
statutes, we're not allowed to own the land.
Right.
But we, just like we do, we maintain, the ballparks down there, and we would be willing to do the same as far as mowing it, obtaining it, doing all that type of stuff. The cost going forward of building the fields and maintaining those fields, that's also, we plan for that to be on us as well.
So are you open to, if the commission approved that you get the plan revised, that you get a layout, that you just take it over and we kind of step back?
I believe so. Obviously, I have a 5-person board, that I go through as well, Leonard. But yes, I believe that's where we're at. My chairman's here tonight, Christy Mavers, as well as my sports director, Nick McBride. And I think that's where we're at. We, like I said, just permission to start moving forward, but we'll gladly take it over and start with that process.
If it's all going to be a sports complex between Penn Avenue and Park Boulevard, and, even if I noticed on the concept of the master plan, a walking trail, but, really, we don't need multiples in town. There's a lot of walkers at the park, the cemetery, that I don't know how critical a walking trail there would be. It's kind of a nice, neat little idea, but reality. But, we've got so much other land to maintain, and if it becomes a sports complex, why get in the mix? If it's sports complex, you do it. The city owns the property. We support you. If you want to do paving, then we could include paving in what we send out to the county to pave the package. So, there's some benefit from there. But, if you're going to need engineering drawings for the concession stand, the restrooms, you'll need help with grading and layout professionally for your parking areas. You'll have, you're already talking a survey, so it would be a relief from our budget standpoint to turn that over. And if you'll do all that, then we work for support and own the land, but you do all the development.
I believe we're very willing to do that. Yes, we would very much like that opportunity.
Yeah, we'd have to probably develop some kind of agreement.
I was going to mention at the last city attorney meeting just 2 weeks ago, one of the topics was when an outside group, which really isn't an outside group, but wants to use city land for some purpose, like Four Paws in the park. They talked about what type of agreements were necessary, and the cities across the state range from no agreements, like a memorandum of understanding, to a 20-page agreement. I think here you might start out with just a simple, very general memorandum of understanding and just develop it from there. Maybe I could get with Brent and he can put his ideas on paper and bring it back to the commission to look at.
Because it would be much easier if we're dealing with ADA issues, like you have to comply with that just the way we do. So you deal with that, and then you'd be the go-to. You got to make your buildings accessible. Then you have to make your bleachers accessible. Then you have to make the routes to the fields accessible. And, then we're not having to get into the mix with you. That, the simple agreements are better than the complex. But, I think it would expedite the process, in my mind. Just say, it's our land, you develop the complex, and we work with the agreement there. I don't know what my other commissioners feel.
We collaborate with you where we can, like as far as paving, as far as concrete work, and I know there's I don't know whether it's a two-phase or I think it's just a two-phase overhead, primary overhead that goes through that, comes off of North Penn, and it extends across that property. So, Westar would have, or Evergy would have to get involved as far as cleaning that up and maybe eliminating that feed or bringing in a feed from some other direction. But Evergy's, company's usually pretty good to work with, and that probably wouldn't be a problem for them. But that would be good use of the property, and it's centrally located. The kids that live nearby could either walk or ride their bike or do what they're doing now, have their parents drop them off. But it's centrally located, and it's a good use of the property, so I think it's a good deal.
Actually, if they make sure in that agreement, not that they just develop it, but they maintain it, the whole area, because right now the park staff is having to go down and mow the skateboard park.
Yeah.
And so that's all part of this, and if they could
Total
maintain the
area.
whole thing, that would save us from having to
Yeah.
take a mower down there from the park and having to mow that piece.
Are we still mowing the dog park, or is that City Rec we're still doing the dog park?
I think
Yeah,
so.
we don't do the dog park.
Okay,
We just do the facilities there. that we-
okay. Okay, Gary, you have any?
I loved it when we talked about it last time. I still love it. I think it's a great idea.
So do I.
There are some utilities and manholes and things back there that you need to be aware of, because at one time that was all platted, and there was actually some houses back there years ago, so.
And like I said, we would like permission to move forward. We're not sure what we're going to run into. I mean,
Sure.
it's obviously our first time to, do something of this magnitude. But like I said, we'd like the opportunity to get to looking into it and moving forward with some plans and stuff, and just see where we're at on it. But that's our envision anyway. So, and the other thing, like I said, right now we can play on the other ball fields, but we don't want to do that for years to come. So, and I have no idea if we're 2 years out from this or 5 years. So that's the reason we're coming back so soon and just trying to kind of get an idea if we can move forward on it or not.
Okay, that's great.
And we did already have a phase 1 and 2 done on all of this with that Brownsville grant, so there's no environmental issues to be
Okay.
worried about.
Good,
Okay.
good. It'd just be a relocation of the Westar utilities and whatever else we run into there, so that's good. So basically, you just want our blessing, and then we would need to draw up a memorandum of understanding, something very basic to structure to have them sign off on, the city and the Independence Rec Commission.
To
Okay.
develop and maintain.
To develop and
I
maintain
know
the
in
property.
previous email correspondence, you talked about, were there agreements that cover the ballparks?
Right.
There weren't.
Yeah,
We could probably add them to the same document if you wanted to.
Okay.
They just continue doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, if we're going to do it, it should be for this whole parcel here plus
Yeah,
the field across, that we just get something so we'll know.
we'll know where the
the future.
responsibility lies, so there will
Yeah.
never be a question about
Yeah,
who
we're
is
fine with that.
responsible for
We
what.
agree.
which
That's
is
fine.
good.
City Rec never shirks its responsibility.
Never.
Never.
It's good to hear.
Okay, so,
You're just providing that direction to Jeff, and then
Yeah.
we'll bring
yep,
the memorandum back to you for formal approval,
Yep.
correct?
Basically, we're authorizing city attorney to prepare a agreement of use for this parcel of land and the ball fields. Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
All right.
it very much.
Brent, thank you.
Thanks, Brent.
Christie, Nick, thank you. Thank you for being here. All righty, moving along, reports. We have a report concerning 220 West Main Street update. David?
Mayor, I'm happy to report that temporary partial occupancy was issued yesterday
Yes.
for the brewery, and so that will be happening. I also had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Morrison as to the status of the rest of the building. He indicated that his work is done, and he has submitted that to the Kansas State Fire Marshal's office for their approval, and when that is received back, he will then turn it over to the City of Independence.
Well, you said his work is done. You're making it sound like the project is completed.
I'm
You're
sorry.
talking about
Hit the
the
plans, the MEP,
fire.
the fire stamp fire plans, all that has been submitted to the Kansas State Fire Marshal's office.
Fantastic.
This is a building over 3 stories, so there is a statute requirement that Kansas State Fire Marshal has to review the fire plans and sign off on them. So that is where he has sent everything. When that, he's informed me when that is done, he will turn what we've requested over to us for Mr. Poole's review and begin working with us.
So they count the basement, so thus it's over
It is
three.
a 4-story
3 stories.
building. Yes.
Didn't know that.
So he will actually turn over the updated drawings?
He indicated when I said
That
all the
part's
work, all
done.
that, he indicated to me all that was completed,
Okay.
that what we requested, but he took the step to go to the Kansas State Fire Marshal's office.
That's
great.
The state fire marshal only reviews fire sprinkler drawings, fire alarm drawings, and a code footprint. They don't review all the other drawings. So all the drawings we request, the MEP, the fire marshal won't review that. The revised floor plans, the fire marshal won't review that. So there's a misunderstanding that he has that by submitting them all there, they'll just reject it. And, even their instructions on the submittal says don't send the full set of plans.
And he may not have. He
Yeah.
just indicated to me the work was done, but he went to them first before he comes back to us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because I think maybe we need to clarify that, as the city is authority having jurisdiction, that those need to come to us. That, because he's looking minimum of 30 days just for the review of the fire alarm and fire sprinkler, but the fire safety, fire prevention notice that was prepared by Pool Fire Protection, those are all subject to the city's approval.
yes.
So the issues if he waits 30 days, this could just delay him longer. That it still comes back to us, and those drawings still have to be submitted for city's review too. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, and he did indicate he was aware that when he receives that back, that it was coming to us, and that there would be Mr. Poole. He did say Mr. Poole could then review, and he would work with us at that point.
yeah, it's a little confusing,
Yeah.
but the MEP are kind of critical to look at the interconnection as far as proceeding with the next phase, how that's all tied in, and that's totally separate from the fire sprinkler and fire alarm drawings. But
Yep.
maybe need to get it clarified.
I mean, would you like to me to ask him if we?
Well,
I think it's just he needs to understand that those revised plans need to be turned over to the city so we
Right.
can
Yeah.
review them. I mean, this is just the first step
Right.
that he's going through, but it'll be the city that does the review on those. So
Yes.
we'll need to see those updated
Right.
plans
yeah.
because we still have the original plans on
Right.
hand, and these will be
Yes.
the ones that are revised
Yes.
so we can keep with the
Yeah.
original footprint of the building. So.
Because still, their review is just with the fire alarm, and the city still has to look at
Right.
those two to make sure that they're in compliance.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
So,
I can visit with him.
Okay.
Let you know.
All right,
Thanks.
David. Thank you very much for staying on top of that. All righty, we're moving. Let's see. City manager's comments. Kelly, what do you have for us this evening?
I sent you guys some emails, but I didn't know if anybody's interested in going to Pittsburgh on Tuesday for the next part of the Kansas Concert meeting with KDOT. I need a RSVP, so I'm just double checking.
Okay,
oh,
No?
it's not going to work for me.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to
Let
make
me-
Sure.
sure.
Sure,
what is that, the 29th?
29th.
Yes, 29th from 1:30 to 4:30. It's at PSU.
And there'll be a summary, an online summary of what was discussed
Yeah,
that'll be
they've
made
been really
available
good about providing
to
those.
us. Okay.
Let me check. I'll let you know
Okay,
tomorrow.
I had the van reserved, and
Okay.
Lacey and I are going if anybody wants to ride with
Okay.
us. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, 4:30 coincides with Chicken Annie's opening.
Yeah, we get done, you can stop by and have some chicken.
There you go.
Then also the North Peter Pan, just wanted to give you an update. They did agree to delay that.
Right.
Got that done on Sunday after the play, right, Jeff?
During the play.
We're doing city work. So anyway, they think it'll be probably a 2-week delay. They had issued a notice to proceed, but they're going to void it and do a new notice to proceed so that the contractor doesn't get assessed liquidated damages going over their days. And so probably around November 4th, when I find out for sure, I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
So that's
Great.
the information on that. And this is hard to see because it's their parking plan. So here's another version. We got some questions about where they're going to close the road and things like that. So I do have a parking plan that will be access to all the properties that are
Okay.
there. And it looks like the road will be closed. If I can get this thing to work here. Let's see. Right around in this area. So, it's where they won't be able to go down any
Okay.
further, where the sign will be. And if you, look at this one, then it shows you the road closed thing, but Oak is clear over here. So, but we had some questions on that, so I wanted to answer that.
Okay.
And then we had a question, well, why don't you guys just go ahead and do it all the way to Oak Street? Well, that is a great idea. And for the low, low price of $2 million, we can do that.
Yeah.
So it's about a little over 2,600 linear feet, and it would be a great project. I will note that the blue area is city limits, so that is not a city road. Doesn't mean that you couldn't partner with the county to do some improvements out there, but that is just a rough estimate I got from Sean, because we did hear that, and as you can see, doing that stretch would be much longer stretch than the 3 pieces that we're doing now. So I did get that answered. When I talked to Sean, he said a more affordable option might be to improve that intersection here, because there's an issue with some turning radiuses for trucks and things like that. He said an intersection project just to improve the intersection would be around $250,000, and that would exclude any right-of-way we would have to obtain. So that's just ballpark figures. If you want to throw that in our plans going forward when we're looking at future budgets or partner with the county,
Right.
there's some numbers you can think about. The road, and I'd mentioned it to you at Lewis at that other meeting earlier this week, that
By the
was
water
planned to
tower.
put in is right here. It would be extending Hackney Avenue to Oak Street, and that right-of-way was secured back when Selma Dittmer was still living and all that was done. So there is road right-of-way there to extend that would actually link that industrial park through. So at some point in time, that could be a future project, and I have Sean's going to give me estimates on that. So, improving this area, and eventually someday this area, and on Oak Street and over to 21st, you kind of link your industrial areas, but for future planning,
Right.
Just something you might want to look at. So I wanted to get that information back to you, because I know some people I put the notice out about the project, and we had lots of public comments.
Oh, yeah,
and
I
so I
saw
want
that.
to respond to those.
And I appreciated you jumping on this, because I basically, the timing was unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned if they had started earlier, we would just be stuck, because the
Yeah,
project
because
had
they were
already been
supposed to have
ongoing.
started earlier, and they
Right.
got delayed, so then it got to the point where, well, what's another few weeks now, so.
Yeah, at that point. So it worked out good. I'm glad you, Jeff, whoever was involved in it, getting the contractor, and Sean Turner getting the contractor to put this off and leave that road open, because traffic's congested around here during this week anyway, and that just was not good timing. And I must admit, I was high on the 2,600 linear feet. I threw in a cost of $3 million.
Well, this
So-
is a guess, so by the
Mine
time
was
we
a
do
guess.
it might be $3 million,
Yeah.
who knows? But
Yeah. Yeah.
that was just a rough estimate that I asked Sean for, so I could give you some amount just for budgeting purposes.
Sure. And just that little stretch that you have on the map there, that's roughly $750,000.
I'd have to go back and
there's-
look at
in
that.
the
Lacey, do you
vicinity.
remember?
But you're talking about just a few hundred
Yeah.
feet. You're not talking
And
about.
we did that in 3 pieces, so
Yeah.
it's kind of,
Yeah.
because we had 2 different grant projects and we couldn't get them lined up at the same time, and
Yeah.
so that's why we had to do the 3 pieces.
Well, it's an improvement, and hopefully when people watch this meeting, they'll understand your explanation as to why we didn't go all the way to Oak Street, so.
Yeah, hard to be justifying $2 million there when we've got streets in
In the
town
city,
that are our responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, even if you say the county would share, you're still $1 million,
Yeah.
and there's streets in town, plus water lines, sewer lines, a lot of other places that it just wouldn't be justified, and even improving the intersection. I don't know.
yeah.
250
It's just,
there.
it was brought up, so I
Yeah.
wanted to get the information for you so that if you hear more comments, then you have the information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No
That
problem.
should make people happy, hopefully. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Commissioner comments, gentlemen? Either one of you have anything you want to bring up?
I attended the training class at the league convention. It was on economic development, and usually they'll talk about the economic development like in Derby or Lenexa and how everything works really great, but due to the logistics, they have much more draw and tie to metropolitan areas. But this time they gave a lot of information that I think we can use. They talked about branding, some Roger Brooks comments, the first impact coming into a town, some things. They even mentioned painting and striping, the parking spaces, the crossings, curb repair in the downtown, right away. It brought to mind that once block of sidewalk on East Main, the 100 block, or is it 200 block? The 200 block.
by where the brewery is
Yeah,
that we need to
no,
replace?
East Main.
Oh, East Main,
It's
sorry.
it's even worse.
Oh, you mean the old dollar
Yeah.
store?
Store.
Oh, yeah,
There,
it's
up to
terrible.
that-
And it still
yeah.
has a drive there, too.
I know, and I thought, that kind of came to my mind right off. But they used an example in one of the cities. I don't remember if it was Topeka or Lenexa, that they were going to lose 2 industries, and they came back and worked with them on economic development, that they saved them. And they said a lot of times we're busy looking at what we want to get that we don't get, but we forget about the businesses, the industries we have here in town. And I thought, maybe with our economic advisory board is work with them that we could include some meetings that they would have with the existing industry to see how we could support them, or if there's contacts that they could go out to bring in support industry. But I've got some notes that I wanted to get cleaned up, and I'll give you guys copies. And also the league has a handbook for economic development that I thought might be something of you being interested in, and then also the committee. But it was, the core and coma are exceptional, and this kind of fell into that category. Some of the other classes haven't been quite as beneficial, but they were bringing out a lot of things that I think really could help us, that we could consider and take it to the advisory board and give them a basis to start and really help. And also, I'm not for sure how it came about. There was a company that does video that they'll come in, like if you're wanting to emphasize the residential part or downtown, that they would come in and do a video that could be put on the website or used for promotion, and we got a $500 gift certificate to go towards that if we're interested. So, but it was a really good class and interesting conference.
All right, good, thank you. I'm looking forward to that information being shared with the rest of us. Gary, do you have anything? Okay. I do have one comment that I would like to make. I did get an email, and I called Nikki Harrison today. She had sent me an email, and she said that she needed to, she wanted me to present to the other two commissioners here that on this interview and review process, she has this information together, and she's holding it. She wants to wait until after the election and look at maybe setting something up a week after, and if that would be agreeable with both my fellow commissioners here. And then I was to get back with her and let her know, and then she would get that information available to the commissioners so we could start reviewing the list of candidates that have applied for the city manager's position. But right now, she just wanted to know if we were in agreement with that. And this is a recommendation that the league made, that they felt that they felt that we should move in that direction.
Yeah, I agree totally. Whoever's going to take this seat next time should be involved in the decision rather than me.
Right, and
For sure.
And she indicated that even though whoever is seated here at the first of the year at least needs to be set in on that discussion when you're talking about that city manager position, because I've seen in another town where that didn't happen and the results were not good. When January 7th or 10th, whatever they had their first meeting, came around and there was a revolt. So, but if you're in agreement with that, then I will get back with her tomorrow and let her know, and then I'll see what she has to give me, and I'll give you a report to you and to the commissioners.
You guys have a special meeting on the 20th at 9 a.m. It's the third Wednesday, and then you moved your other meeting to the 21st. So you already have a meeting set on the 20th at 9 o'clock. I don't know if that would work, but
Yeah.
I just thought I would
Okay.
remind you that that's already on the calendar.
Okay.
So she's planning to bring the books with the resumes, give them to us, and then we're
Yes.
going to take them and review, and then get back with her on setting up
Yes.
interviews.
Yes.
She's not going to expect to set up interviews
No.
the same day.
No,
Okay.
she just wanted clarification that we would take the recommendation that they would that we would postpone any more work on this until a week after the election.
Well, then, with the information of resumes, to discuss those, since it'll be personal information, is that going to have to be done in executive session?
It was before. It was last time around.
That's what I was thinking, because
It's a legitimate topic for executive session. I know there's always that issue, what's non-elected personnel, because they're not hired yet, but the AG opinion, I think, says that when you're going over candidates for a city manager, you can do that in executive session. It's considered non-elected personnel.
yeah, because it seemed like last time, Gary, wasn't there a concern that some of the resumes were not to be released because of,
A good number.
Well, that's true.
If they're in existing positions, they
Yeah.
don't want to be known they're looking around, and you can't really discuss them in an open session anyway.
right. So that might be something we need to verify with Jeff and Nikki,
Okay.
and we'd have time to do that.
They've had quite a turnover in their legal staff up there. They have some new attorneys, so I don't even know them all. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you've given me direction on how to proceed with Nikki, so I will get her called tomorrow, and then I'll pass on whatever information she has for me. And so that's all I have. So next, we have two executive sessions The first one is I move that we recess for an executive session for discussion of an employee performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception, KSA 75-4319B1. And how much time are we looking at
15
here?
minutes.
15
and
minutes.
include David and myself and Jeff.
And Jeff and the three commissioners, okay? And 15 minutes, and that will put us back in session at 7:25? Okay. All right, I make the motion that we go into executive session for 15 minutes in relation to what I already stated. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're back in session at 7:25. There was no action taken, and we're going to move toward adjournment. I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you.